I love the exterior styling of the Corsair. We do have our Corsair badge along the driver-passenger side, along the outside. Nice silver highlights which move all throughout the body of the vehicle, front to back. It's amazing the way that this thing looks, especially this baby blue. It's kind of growing on me a little bit. But a few things about the Corsair. We have a lot of standard technology, a lot of optional technology. It's going to depend on the trim level that you're in and the packaged options that you choose. So we've got the base, we've got the reserve, and then the Grand Touring model, with the Grand Touring being the hybrid version of the vehicle. So there are technically 3 available engine choices, which we'll get to when we get underneath the hood, but there is quite a lot of power depending on the version of the vehicle that you're in. Well, technically, even in the base 2-liter, it's actually fairly powerful for what it is. The Corsair has a series of different style rims and tires that are available, just depending on which version of the vehicle you're in and which packages you've opted for. We've got 18, 19, or 20-inch rims and rubber to match, and a series of different style rims, as I mentioned earlier, but some of them do look fairly sharp. And you always have the option of doing aftermarket upgrades if you're not a fan of the way it looks from the factory, but these things, machined aluminum, look fairly sharp all at the same time. We've got these moldings there, which plastic, and it's all the way throughout the body. As we kind of get throughout the side of the body, it's got a nice silver highlight, which kind of carries through the Corsair badge we're going to find on the driver-passenger side. We've got some great technology that's available standard and optionally inside of this thing. Along our side view mirrors, this specific one has the option for the full 360 camera. So we've got our side view cameras, we've got our rear camera, as well as our front-facing camera hidden in that grille, which stitched together give us that full 360 view. Now, a few other things to point out, because this one has that added package, we've also got the forward sensing system, which is optional inside of the Corsair. So you're not going to get it in the base model, it is optional and standard, depending on which version of the vehicle that you're in. Now, because of the added tech packages this one has, we do have our LED jeweled headlamps there that do offer dynamic bending. So it's dynamic bending side to side, unfortunately not up and down, but it still is fairly nice at the same time. So really useful, because as we corner left, right, whatever the case may be, the lights will literally shine for us in order to kind of guide the road a little bit more, which is definitely a nice thing. We do have our LED fog lamps there. And then as we move down, so we've got those silver highlights we saw along the side of the body, and they're carried through the front bumper along the very bottom there. It does feel fairly nice, and we've got some nice contrast there. So the overall styling and dynamic look of this is going to depend on which version of the vehicle you're in, specifically the exterior color, because we've got some of these different highlights that'll change with different packaged add-on options and things like that. But some colors in the Corsair look very sharp, like we get into those blacks, and even the red, like I'm falling in love with it the more and more I see it. Like I said, this blue, metallic paint across the board, but it does look fairly sharp inside of this thing. Getting underneath the hood of the Corsair is straightforward. So on the inside, just to the left-hand side of the gas brake, we've got a release. We pull that twice, up it goes. Because it's on hydraulics, we don't need to worry about fiddling with any sticks and things like that. It's just up and open, which is amazing. Now the Corsair does technically have 3 different engine choices that are available, depending on the version of the vehicle you're in. You're going to have the 2-liter turbocharged engine standard. You've got the optional 2.3-liter, and then when you get into the Grand Touring, that's when you get into the 2.5-liter Atkinson hybrid. But this specific one that we're looking at is the 2-liter, which still pushes out a surprising amount of power. Like this 2-liter is 250 horsepower and 280 pound-feet of torque. So a ton of power, really is going to get you A to B fairly quickly, which is nice, and you're doing it in style all at the same time. Woo! As we got a bike ripping it on the highway there. It's amazing, it's bike season right now. But underneath the hood here, we do have easy access to a few things, so we can easily top up some fluids if we need to. We could technically check our oil if we wanted to do that as well, and then we've got easy access to the battery. Now I say check your oil as well because you've got that flexibility. Like if you're handy, you want to kind of do it yourself, you can, but just make sure you're regularly maintaining your vehicle. When you purchase a vehicle, whether it's a Lincoln, Ford, whatever the case may be, you've got the option for a maintenance package directly at the time of purchasing your vehicle. And one of the benefits there is that it covers off all of your regularly scheduled maintenance for a predetermined period of time. So it is nice to know that it's essentially like a hands-free experience, because you get into the options where you can just drop your vehicle off, you can have a concierge pick it up, just depending on where you're located and which version of the vehicle you're in. But there are quite a few different great options that are available being a Lincoln owner. One of the great ones is Lincoln Roadside Assistance, and that covers you for the duration of your powertrain warranty, which is amazing. So if you break down, ever run into any issues, you can call that 800 number, and a tow truck will come and tow you to the nearest Lincoln dealership to help you get this thing serviced if anything ever happens. Taking a peek along our driver's side door, we do have our 5-digit number pad here, so we can easily get into the vehicle if we want to. We can press the bottom 2 buttons there if we want to lock the door, and we can also lock the door by pressing this button there. So we've got like a little hamburger icon there, but we can slide our hand in here if we want to unlock, which is great. And taking a peek along the inside here. So along the driver's side door, we do have a series of options available. We can adjust our seats using the levers along the side there. So because this is the 24-way adjustable, we can adjust each individual leg cushion. Like, watch this. This is such a neat feature. So adjusting each individual leg cushion, which is amazing. It's not going to be standard, but it is optional when we get those 24-way seats, which is great. We've got our seat memory buttons there. And this is a hot button press in order to be able to get into our massage chair seat options. On top of that, we can get into some more advanced controls for the 24-way power seats. We've got our handle there, so nice metallic look. Follows all throughout the door there. We've got this gorgeous white stitching with this nice leather across the door. And then taking a peek along the very top there, we do also have a series of other options. So we can lock the doors. We can power fold the side view mirrors, adjust our side view mirrors there, window up and down. We've got a little storage cubby there, as well as a little storage cubby along the other part of the door there. Moving inside, the Lincoln vehicle does have our welcome lighting, but we do have a little Lincoln scuff plate there along the side. So as we look at the steering wheel itself, we are going to be a power telescoping steering wheel. So we can just kind of make that out there. So 4-way adjustable. Moving along the side, so series of different buttons that are available there. So one on the far left-hand side, that's going to let us open and close the trunk up from the inside. We can also turn our fog lamps on or off. We can adjust what's going on with our running lamps. I honestly just recommend keeping it in the auto setting. And then we can increase or decrease the brightness of the cluster screen. Now, as we start to move down, we do have our gas brake pedals there. Along the side, we also do have the release in order to get underneath the hood. So if we ever need to get underneath the hood, we're just going to give it a pull twice in order to be able to do it. I love the interior of the Corsair. This thing is amazing. Very, very comfortable seats. Few things to mention about the seats. This specific one has the optional technology package, which gives us the 24-way massage chair seats, and those things are absolutely amazing. I'll show you how they work in just a second. So design-wise, I was showing you the driver door earlier. This thing is amazing. We've got this nice black highlight, and we've got a nice kind of matte highlight that follows all the way throughout the dash. We've got a little wood grain that kind of sits right below that. Now, if you're not a fan of the wood grain, we do have some different options available. You can always go aftermarket too, like 3M, Lux Auto. There are a lot of different options that are available in order to get different decals and stickers and things like that to cover that up if you're a fan of something different. But great highlights. We've got metallic highlights all throughout, dropping into our piano keys down the center stack. This thing looks fairly sharp. All right, so a few other things to point out. We do have a voice command prompt in the very top of the steering wheel there, so we can push that. In order to be able to change songs, radio stations, we can navigate using our voice. Stick on the left-hand side, there's a button on the very tip of that stick. You can just kind of make it out there. That's going to turn our lane keeping system on or off, so you can see it disappear and reappear there as necessary. Now, the system itself is turned on, but it doesn't actually activate until we hit 64 kilometers an hour. Those are going to go green when it recognizes the lane markings, but it's a very smart system. It's going to either gently nudge us back into our lane, give us a steering wheel shake, depending on how we have it set up, but it is a great safety setting. We can easily flash our high beams out as well. Stick on the right-hand side is going to let us adjust our wipers, and we've got our front and our rear wiper. So there's a stick, on the very tip of that stick. Oh, hold on, I'll bring you over this way. Okay, so very tip of this stick, so as you can see there, we also can adjust our rear wiper there as well. So very straightforward to go one way or the other as necessary. All right, so let's dive through the steering wheel a little bit because there's so much going on. First thing, you might just be able to make it out, but we do have our paddle shifters, so our minus on the left, plus on the right-hand side, so we can easily adjust what gear we're in as necessary. And this one, so we can see along the left-hand side, so we can change between songs or radio stations this way. We can also do a press in order to be able to change presets, or we can also do a press and hold in order to be able to seek this way as well. So we have quite a little bit of flexibility there, which is amazing. We can increase or decrease the volume by pressing up and down there as well. And we also have this button, which, watch this. Okay, so see that?
little hideaway buttons down there. This is so cool. All right, hold on, let me lower you down a tiny little bit. All right, and watch this again. So we push that button on the steering wheel, and it's going to hide or show the buttons as necessary for the adaptive cruise control system. So the adaptive cruise is our set it and forget it cruise. So once we have this turned on, once we're up to our set speed, we hit set, so either one or on the very bottom there. On the very top, these actually aren't the buttons. You have to go in behind the steering wheel there in order to be able to push them. So we can increase or decrease 1 kilometer or 1 mile per hour at a time. If we ever have to press the brake, we can hit resume along the left-hand side. Along the right side, we've also got our cancel button. We've got our lane centering button, so we can see the steering wheel appear and reappear as necessary there. One of the great things, so that's actually our lane keeping system on steroids, because lane keeping system gently nudges us back into our lane. Our lane centering system, I can't technically say self-driving because we have to have our hands on the steering wheel, but it's going to keep us nice and balanced in our lane as we go, which is amazing. We've also got our distance indicator, so we can see lanes disappearing there. So that's how close or how far are we away from the vehicle that's in front of us. So quite a few different options that are available there. I want you to think of that as like the 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi rule. So how close or how far do you want to be away from the vehicle that's in front of you? But a great amount of features there just on that part of the steering wheel. And then we press that button, and that's going to get rid of all of those other buttons. So if we accidentally press, we don't have to worry about anything accidentally turning on. Along this side, we've got our pages button, which is going to let us jump between active pages on that middle screen. And we can also adjust as necessary here. So I'll show you. So we go to our music along the side. We can change between AM, FM, SiriusXM, and I've also got my phone connected there. And moving the opposite way, so we move to the top, we've got my home, previous destinations, favorites. We can go point of interest icons. So all I'm doing is moving up and down this way using this little selector switch. You can go back, but you can see that buttons kind of appear and disappear as necessary there as well. So we've got our basic OK button to go to a subscreen, so we push to the right, or we go left in order to go backward. So it's pretty straightforward. And we move across to our cell phone now, and we've got all of our calls, incoming calls, outgoing, and missed calls. So we can make phone calls as necessary there if we want to. And then we move down in order to get into some more options. So we've got our display set up, so we've got different information screens. Do we want to show fuel economy, trip counters, what seatbelts are active, our power distribution, and things like that. So we're going to display, actually, you know what? I'm going to choose a few more. We're going to go seatbelts. I think I reached the maximum. Okay, I'll show you what these things look like in just a second. But we go back, and we've got our speedometer. So do we want to have it in miles per hour, kilometers per hour? We've got our tachometer, so do we want to add that to the view as well? So if we go home, we've got our speedometer and our tachometer there now. If we go back to settings again, we go into our display, we get rid of the tachometer and go back home. As you can see there, we've just got our speedometer in the very middle. So we can easily adjust this thing out as necessary. It's kind of neat, we've got that option. We've got our Eco Coach that's available there. Our border crossing, so as we come up to an upcoming border crossing, do we run a reminder, yes or no? And then we've got our oil life, so we can also do a reset simply by pressing OK on the steering wheel. You can see that counter going down, and then back to the home screen again. So as you saw there, we did adjust a few different screens, so we added some things in. So as you can see there, we've got our different trip counters, etc. So if we ever need to reset, so we're on our main screen there, so we need to reset our trip counter, all we're going to do is press and hold the pages button there. You see that countdown timer going, and it's reset us very simply. We press the pages button there again, and that's going to jump us to our next one, which is fuel economy. So same idea, we can reset that by pressing and holding. We push again, and that is going to be our tire pressure. And then we've also got our power distribution, which is another screen that we added in. So we've got a little bit of flexibility as to what screens are showing up and how it's done, but it's so straightforward to use this thing all at the same time. Now, one thing, we don't have the flexibility to really customize the color or any other options there. So the colors are what the colors are. It would be nice, like as we move through different drive modes, that it would kind of adjust on the fly there. Lincoln, if you're listening, I think that would be amazing to be able to kind of dynamically update that based off of the drive mode that we're in. But as of right now, we've got just this base screen, which at the same time does look fairly nice. Now, the steering wheel itself is going to be a telescopic, and it's telescopic power, so we can go forwards, backwards, up and down with it. And it's part of the memory seat control. So once we've got our driver's seat set up for how we like it, we've got our steering wheel set up, as well as our side view mirrors. We can press and hold either 1, 2, or 3 along the driver's side door in order to save our own personal profile. Now, one thing to note, you can also override that profile. So if it's not ideal for your setup, change it however you'd like to, press and hold that button again until you hear a chime, and Bob's your uncle. Now, this is typically going to be the screen that we're going to be met with when the vehicle's first turned on. So we've got our navigation, we've got what's currently playing, and then we can also add in a phone along the very bottom there. Along the very top you saw there, that's going to be the option of getting into our home screen again. We've got our clock, which we can press in order to get into our clock settings if we want to change those out. We've got our outside temperature as well as our current data transfer. So as of right now, we don't have anything connected. So we're not connected to Wi-Fi or anything like that, which is why there's nothing currently showing there. But if we were connected to a Wi-Fi network at home, that would show up as an available option there. But let's go through kind of line by line. I'll show you everything you need to know about every option. Starting off with our audio tab along the very bottom left, we've got a series of options for sources. So we've got our AM, FM, SiriusXM, Bluetooth. If we had a USB stick with MP3s, we could plug that in. That would work as an available source. When we're connected through our phone, we have a number of options available. So I'm going to jump back into audio after I've connected a phone, but we'll get there in just a second. Because let's say we hit FM again. So we've got a series of options available. So we can direct tune to a different station this way if we want to. We've got a tuning rocker a bit further down the center stack, and then we can also press the voice command prompt on the steering wheel in order to change sources that way. So if we want to change station sources, whatever the case may be. And then we also can press along the steering wheel there in order to be able to adjust what preset we're listening to. And we can also press and hold in order to be able to seek that way if we want to instead. So we have quite a few different options that are available, looking at how we can seek out to different stations. Now, if we ever want to save a preset, all we do is tune to whatever station we want. We're just going to press and hold any of the available spaces, and it's going to save it in. So it's literally that simple. Now, if we go into our settings along the very bottom, we've got a few other options available. So if we go to radio for a second, we've got our radio text, and then we've got preset pages. I always recommend just going to a max number of preset pages, and I'll show you why in a few seconds. So we go back home, and all of a sudden, we've got up to 30 individual presets that are available. And as you can see there, it's a mix of AM, FM, SiriusXM as well. Now, if we go into SiriusXM, we have a series of other options that are going to be available. Now, we do have 3 months of included service when we have a new Lincoln vehicle that's purchased, so it is nice that we've got that option. But we can direct tune that way, and we can direct tune every other way that we want to. We've got this notification alarm to let us know if we do have that song playing or that band that's playing again. We've also got our bass back button there, so we can seek out as we want to. We can play and pause directly on the screen there if we want to on top of that. We've got all of our channel views, so we can go through our either categories, channels, whatever the case may be. And moving back again into our settings, we go to SiriusXM. So that was a radio button, but we're in SiriusXM instead. And that gives us a series of other options. So preset pages, we can change that out. We've got our parental lock. So if you don't want kids listening to, or a spouse that you're playing a prank on, you don't want them listening to bad music, we can lock it out if we want to. We've got our music notifications that we can enable, disable, etc. We can tune to different stations to start. We've got our different presets, and we can lock out channels. So if we want to lock out certain channels, this is where we're going in order to make it happen. And we've also got skip channels. So if you just want to skip certain channels and not necessarily block them out, we've got the flexibility to be able to adjust as necessary there. And like you see there, quite a few different options that are available. If you're a heavy SiriusXM user, you've got some great options available there. But moving back into our audio, if we go back into our AM or FM again, move back into settings, that's a radio tab again. So this button is dynamic just based off of what source you're listening to. And that's going to be the basics of the radio and tuning things out, etc. But like I mentioned, we do have the flexibility of 97.7 FM.
Tuning to FM 97.7.
So we can change stations out that way if we want to instead. Next up, connecting a phone to the vehicle is a very straightforward process, and it's the exact same process on the Android and the iPhone side of things, but we're going to start off on the iPhone side. So what we're going to do is just hit Add Phone.
Search for your vehicle on your device and select it once it is found.
There we go, and we're just looking for Lincoln Corsair. So we're just going to hit Lincoln Corsair.
The pin displayed on sync matches the pin displayed on your device.
Pins match up, and you would want to allow contacts and favorites to sync.
Stay alert to changing road conditions and use Sync's voice-activated features while your vehicle is in motion.
All right, so there we go. Now we've got a few different options that are available there. So we've got our 911 assist. Always recommend turning that one on. One of the big benefits there is that if we are connected over Bluetooth, if we're ever in an accident and the vehicle recognizes it, it's going to automatically dial 911 for us. Automatic contact downloads. When the vehicle recognizes new contacts, do we want it to download, yes or no? And we're just going to hit finish there. So we're fully connected now. We've got my recent call list, contacts, my phone, we can change phones, we've got my keypad and Siri. And that's one of the great things because we can also press and hold the voice command prompt on the steering wheel if we want to be able to activate our Siri assistant. So it's pretty straightforward. I'll show you that I didn't press it myself. We just press and hold the button on the steering wheel. As you can see there, Siri turns on and there we go. So it is amazing that we've got that flexibility through this screen. But that's the basics of setting up a phone. Now, if we go back into audio for a second and we look at sources, we've got my phone connected, but we've got Live One, which is a radio app. So certain apps will work directly through this middle screen. I know that Pandora is another radio app that will work, but Spotify, you have to connect over Bluetooth and just stream audio that way. You unfortunately don't have the flexibility of looking at that as an entertainment source, and it's the same way as YouTube. So YouTube videos won't be playable directly through this middle screen, but you will be able to play the audio via Bluetooth instead, looking at YouTube Music. Well, we jump back into our base phone there, and we've got our base options. We can go into our settings and look at our phone now in a series of other options. So we can view connected devices. We can manage contacts. We've got our ringtone, messaging. If we want to get a roaming warning or a battery notification, we can do that as well. So we connect into the device and we can either disconnect or we can completely remove it. But it's that simple setting up an iPhone. And then setting up Apple CarPlay is also very straightforward. So what we're going to do, take a USB cable and we're going to plug it into that USB port along the very bottom there. Opposite end of the cable, we're just going to plug ourselves in. Apple CarPlay. Let's continue. We have to agree. It should take a few seconds there. And do we want to allow CarPlay while the phone is locked? Yes, we want to allow that. And as you can see, fully connected. So we've got my phone, we've got Apple Maps, we've got Google Maps, and we've got Waze. And we can use all of these things directly through this middle screen. So if you don't want to rely on factory navigation, if you like Waze or Google Maps better instead, you've got the flexibility to use it. We've got our favorites. We can also search for an address this way. We can search through by pressing this button there instead. Moving back, we can also adjust. We can move as necessary. And as you can see there, the 401 is bad right now. Ooh, that's not nice. Ooh, that's not nice. I gotta travel back home in this. But this is nice because we can see exactly what's going on there. Moving back, so we press this button along the very back in order to get to this main screen. But a series of different options that are available. Now, if you ever need to get out of the Apple CarPlay side of things to jump back into Sync 3, we just press this Lincoln button. And as you can see there, it brings us back into the screen. Because we're connected through CarPlay, the icons along the bottom are now slightly different. But we can press either or, so we hop back into CarPlay this way if we want to. And then we can also hot button press to get into our maps again, just based off of the last launched map application. We've got our available podcasts, so we can listen now, we can browse, we can look at our library if we want to. We can jump back home again very simply. We've got our audiobooks and then a number of other options that are available. But one of the great things is that you also have the flexibility to be able to adjust and customize the tray itself. So if you're a bigger fan of listening to podcasts and things like that first, or podcasts I should say, you've got the flexibility to adjust it as necessary. So watch this. So we're going to go into our phone and we're going to get to our, so Sync 3. So we're going to go, here, let me show you how. So we're going to go CarPlay, oh, wrong one. CarPlay, we're going to go Sync 3. Customize, and now all we have to do is just do a drag and drop, and it's going to dynamically update for us. So we go into different options. If you want your audiobooks and things like that there, we can get rid of the calendar if we want to. If you're never going to listen to audiobooks, we can remove that. And it brings it to the bottom tray here, which if we've played around with this too much, we don't like what we've done, we can just do a reset in order to bring it back to our factory default screen instead. So as you can see there, right back home. Press this button again in order to be able to get back to this main screen. So it's that simple to do it. If we go back home now, we've got a few other options. So we cycle through and we've got Apple CarPlay. We've got my phone there, so we can connect my phone. We can temporarily disable CarPlay. So you see the notifications change there. So my phone is actually charging up while we're not connected. So I'm connected not over Bluetooth yet because I haven't reconnected yet. Or I can completely remove my phone from CarPlay specifically. Now if we jump back into phone again, it's launched me right back into my phone there. So it has reconnected me over Bluetooth, and we can see all my different contacts and things like that. So in order to remove a phone, it's also straightforward. So if we're on our phone button there, no way to do it through this screen. We just go settings, we scroll across to our phone, we view devices, we connect to my phone, and then we can disconnect or we can completely remove it. But I'm just going to leave it connected for now, just for this specific test. But it's that simple to be able to connect an iPhone to the vehicle. All right, now, setting up an Android device is the exact same process, so very straightforward. All we're going to do is, if we're not on this screen, let's say if we're on this main screen, home screen, whatever the case may be, we can't change it in our phone unless we go to this change phone button there, which is nice and handy. So very straightforward. So on our phone, all we're going to do is we're actually first going to hit Add Bluetooth
Search
Device.
for your vehicle on your device and select it once it is found.
And we're just going to press Scan along the top there, and we're just waiting for it to show up along the bottom. There we go. So we've got our Lincoln Corsair, and we just connect through. So we just press the button there.
Confirm that the pin displayed on sync matches the pin displayed on your device.
Pins and numbers match up,
For
which is
your
great.
safety, please stay alert to changing road conditions and use Sync's voice-activated features while your vehicle is in motion.
Okay, so that's straightforward. So we can allow access to messages, which I'm going to deny for now, and we can now set it as a favorite phone. So if you've got multiple phones connected, you can set one of them as the favorite if you want to. I'm going to show you how to do that just in case we skip this one accidentally. So we're just going to hit Finish, and we're fully connected now. Now, if we hit Phone again, we can view devices, and we've got both phones that are connected. If we want to, we can connect to that media instead. We can close out, we can go to the Galaxy, we can disconnect, or we can make this one the favorite instead. So it's which one gets connection priority. So if both phones are in the vehicle, which one is it going to try to connect to first? So you've got a few different options available there. Moving back and again into our phone, and we are connected. So we've got this, and that. We've got our phone assistant. So if we press the voice command prompt on the steering wheel, we've got our phone assistant there. Oh, there we go. Okay, you know why? So when we're connected with a Samsung device, we've got Bixby. I don't have Bixby enabled, which is why it's not showing up there as an available option. But when we connect through Android Auto, that's when we get our Google Assistant instead. So speaking of Android Auto, let me show you how that process works. So very similar to the iPhone side of things, we're going to take our USB cable there, and we're going to plug it into that front USB port. We're going to take our other USB cable, other end of the cable, I should say, and plug it into our phone. So you can see we're charging up there and Android Auto. So we just have to unlock the phone, and we are unlocked. Perfect. We're going to continue there, and we're going to hit Next. Look at how simple this is. We're going to agree, and I'm going to cancel it. I do not want to update Bixby right now. And 3, 2, 1, we are fully connected. So really that straightforward, and as you can see, launches right into Google Maps for us. Super responsive. We've got our nice pinch to zoom. We can also adjust in and out this way if we want. We can hot button press in order to get into our music. So we've got our media picks. We've also got our notification center, and we've also got our Google Assistant. So we can now press and hold the button on the steering wheel to launch into our Google Assistant instead. We can press the button there, or we can simply say, "Okay, Google," and it launches into the Assistant that way instead. We can button press here in order to get into this option, so we can look at our podcasts. We press the button along the very bottom left side in order to jump into that main screen, which should look familiar. It's very similar to what we saw on the iPhone side of things. But we don't have quite as many options, because one thing to consider, so this phone does actually have Android Auto. Well, it's got Android Auto, obviously, but it's got Waze installed. But even though it's got Waze installed, it's not an available option. So unfortunately, not every map application will work directly through this middle screen, and Android Auto, Waze is one of those options, but we at least do have Google Maps there. And one of the great things is that on our phone, we've got the flexibility to customize this. So all we do is search for Android Auto, and if we want to adjust it, we can customize very simply. So on Android Auto screen, we can customize the launcher there. But one thing to note, any changes we make, so I'm going to show you. So all we're going to do is just grab, we're going to drag it to the top. It doesn't dynamically update it. We actually have to restart Android Auto on both the phone and the vehicle in order for changes to take into effect. So we have to close it down on both in order for those changes to update on the vehicle, but we still have the flexibility of customizing if we want to. We've got our Google detection. We can have our day-night mode for maps. We can also start Android Auto while the phone is locked. We've got our Google Assistant and a number of other options. Wireless Android Auto, even though the option showing there is not compatible with the Sync 3 media screen, unfortunately. It is only available in Ford Lincoln Sync 4 system, but the Corsair does not have access to that as of yet. Hoping by next year, maybe 2024 model, we should be on Sync 4 instead of the Corsair. But overall, great feature, great functionality. Same thing to the Apple side of things. If we want to get back home, we press the Lincoln button there. That launches us back in. We can get into our Android Auto preferences again if we want to. So we can, if we want to disable it, we can remove the Galaxy. We can jump back into Android Auto there if we want. Button press to get back home. And if we go Android Auto preferences, so let's say if we've set up Android Auto, but now we don't want it anymore, we just want Bluetooth only, we can disable Android Auto there. As you can see, it's disconnected me, and at the same time, it's also charging the phone up. So we can close that out, and as you can see there, we are now disconnected through Apple CarPlay, or Android Auto, I should say, but we do still have our Bluetooth connection that's active. We can jump back in to change our phone out. We can jump in here, we can disconnect, or we can completely remove. Removing the Galaxy, as you can see there, 3, 2, 1, fully disconnected. And let's simply reconnect back to the iPhone again, and in 2 seconds, we are fully connected. So it's that easy in order to be able to set up an Android and iPhone device inside of this vehicle. Next up, looking at factory navigation. So it's very straightforward to use. We can search for an address along the very top there. So if we just start typing in an address, it's going to give us a little predictive text. So as you can see there, we can adjust and we can pick whatever address we want to. We can save it as a favorite. So I'm going to save it as a favorite for a second there. I'm just going to show you why in a second. And then we can then start. So if we just hit start, as you can see there, so we've got our favorites. So it's now saved it in. Oh, that's why I was like, what's happening? Saved it as a favorite. So if we go into our search now, we've got our history, homework, favorites, which we're going to jump into. And with this favorite that I set up, we can now start, or we can edit. So if we edit it out, I'm going to show you this one, we can change the name if we want to. So it doesn't have a name associated with it. So if you wanted to say Bill or Frank's house or Sally's house or whatever the case may be, we can then press the voice command prompt on the steering wheel and we can say navigate to Bill's, navigate to home, navigate to work, whatever the case may be. Or we can just hit delete in order to delete it as a favorite. So it's that simple to be able to set up, edit, and delete favorites. Now, one of the great things is that we've got the flexibility to search using addresses there. We can use GPS coordinates. We can look at point of interest icons. So if we want to go food, shopping, recreation, and a number of options, we've got a ton of flexibility there. Along the bottom, we can also change a few things out. So we can go English, Spanish, French as necessary. We can go upper, lowercase if we want to, different unique characters. And we can also press our search bar along the very bottom if we want to go that route. But tons of different options available looking at searching. As we move back, we've got a few options there. So we've got our base menu, we've got our pinch to zoom there. I find it's not quite as responsive as Google Maps is, but it still is nice all at the same time. We also can recenter us back in. We can change it to different map views by pressing the button there. We can start if we want to go to a different address as well. We're just going to press home and back to nav again. Going into our menu, we've got a series of other options now. So a series of different screen views. So we've got our full map versus highway exit, traffic list, and then some advanced navigation settings. So map preferences. We've got our 3D city model, breadcrumbs. I want you to think Hansel and Gretel. So as we take different routes, it's going to leave a breadcrumb letting us know places that we've gone, which is kind of neat. Moving back in, we've also got our point of interest icons, and then if there's any accidents, so we can see exactly what's going on as necessary. Route preferences, do we want the fastest, the shortest, or the most eco-friendly route? Do we want to always use the fastest route? Do we want to use HOV lanes? And then do we want dynamic route guidance based off of traffic? Do we want to avoid freeways, toll roads, and things like that? And that's all going to dynamically update what's going on with the route as we go. We've got our navigation preferences, and that's going to be our guidance prompts. So as we're coming up to a turn, do we want a voice and tone, a voice, or strictly a tone? So we've got quite a few options that are available, and that's going to be the base of the navigation settings. We can see exactly where we are. We've got our home and our work addresses there. We can search, so we can search this way again if we want to. Brings us back to this main screen. Moving back, we can see addresses that we've searched for previously. But because I deleted that favorite, that's why it's not showing up. We've got our favorites, point of interest icons, which we saw this base screen as well. And we can swipe across again for our home or our work address. But that's the basics of using navigation inside of the Corsair, and it is very simple to do it. Moving into our app screen next, we've got a series of different options that are available. We've got the Lincoln Way app, which on our phone would give us the flexibility of remote starting and things like that directly on our cell phone. So it's very straightforward to do. We've got our Find app options, and then we've got our settings screen, which gives us a ton of settings that are available. Starting off, we've got our sound, so we can change out our treble, mid-range, bass. Something like this is typically going to give us good sound. We can change out the balance and fade if we want to, so balance and fade change out. We can adjust as necessary, so if there's multiple people in the vehicle, we can adjust there. We can reset it to bring it back to center, or we can have it focus strictly on the driver instead. Moving back and down, we've got our speed compensated volume, so as we start driving a little bit faster, do we want it to adjust the volume, yes or no? Occupancy mode, is it going to be for all seats or just the driver? And we've got our clock, which I showed you earlier. We can either press the clock along the top or just the clock button there instead. That's going to launch us into this clock menu. We can change between hours, AM, PM, hours, minutes. If we want the military time, we can change that out instead. We can automatically adjust for daylight savings time and a few other options. Oh, and moving back, we've got our Bluetooth, so we can toggle our Bluetooth system on or off. We can add in other devices, or we can see connected devices. Back again, we've got our phone settings there, so we can view devices, and we've already seen all these settings when we were looking through the phone. Tons of different general settings available, so we can change between English, Spanish, French, Celsius, Fahrenheit, kilometers, liters per 100. The touchscreen beep we can disable. If you're selling your Corsair, you can reset it 2 different ways. So you can either do the Lincoln Way reset, so if your phone's acting up, giving you issues, you can do a reset there. This is connectivity thing, so if you need to boot people off your Lincoln Way app, we would go there. Or if you're selling the vehicle, we just do a master reset to bring it all back to a factory default instead. We've got radio, which we saw earlier, that's dynamic depending on which source we're using. And then a series of different driver assistance settings. So 3 different types of cruise control. We've got our normal, adaptive, and then intelligent. Intelligent takes the adaptive to the next level. So we set a tolerance level there. So let's say it's at, 2 kilometers an hour. So if, let's say, the speed is 80 kilometers an hour and it drops down to 60 kilometers an hour, it's going to adjust us 18 kilometers an hour because we've set a tolerance of 2. So it's automatically going to adjust us as necessary. Our lane keeping system works 3 different ways. So we've got either our alert, which is going to give us a little bit of a steering wheel shake, our aid, which is going to nudge us back into our lane, our alert and the aid, which is going to do both. And then, it's the intensity of the steering wheel shake. So do we want a high, normal, or a low shake? Pre-collision assist with some great options, so we can get it to actively brake for us. So if the vehicle senses a potential collision, it's going to brake. We can turn that off if we don't want it. Evasive steering, if the vehicle senses a potential collision, it's pretty much going to turn the car into like a hypersensitivity mode, so we can get out of a potential wave of an obstacle very easily. And then the sensitivity to that system. We've got speed sign recognition, our rear view camera, a few options. So we've got our parking aid, which as we shift into reverse, so as we start to get closer to an obstacle, it's going to let us know, and we can also, if we want to, get rid of that enhanced aid, and we can also have the rear camera delay. So if we've got our rear camera on, drive forward, it's going to keep the camera on for a few seconds longer. Our blind spot system lets us know if anybody's entered the blind spot on either side of the vehicle. So our side view mirrors are going to highlight orange. There's a little piece there that's going to highlight orange, letting us know. Cross traffic alert, so if somebody's coming perpendicular, the vehicle's going to let us know of a potential collision. And then a reverse brake assist. So as we go to back up, if there's an obstacle behind us that we haven't seen, the vehicle's going to brake for us automatically, which is amazing. We've got some advanced vehicle settings as well. So 30-minute max idle. If you're ever taking your vehicle into, let's say, a drive-in movie theater, you want to make sure that you turn this setting off so the vehicle's just going to constantly run. You can adjust as necessary. Rear occupant alert. So when we go to turn the vehicle off, we're going to get a little message letting us know to check the back seats. Easy entry exit means that we can have the seat automatically drop down and lower back in order to be able to get in and out of the vehicle easier. It's actually a pretty good one to have. Oh, rear occupant alert. Let me do this one. This is a nice one to have. We've got our My Key setting. So we've got the flexibility to set up certain limitations for a key fob. So if we want to do things like limit the speed, limit the volume, things like that based off of what key fob's in the car, we can do that. We've got our onboard serial number. Remote start setup. We can disable remote start completely if we want to. But then if we remote start, what happens? Will our climate control come on? So is it based off of the last setting, or do we let the vehicle determine what the temperature should be? Heated seats and steering wheel, do we want the vehicle determining if those should come on as well? And then 5, 10, or 15 minutes for the duration of the remote start. So you've got a few different options available there. Next up, we've got our windows. So we do have the flexibility of using the key fob in order to roll the windows up and down. A top outside, I'll show you how that's done.
In order to roll it down, we press the unlock button twice. On the second button press, we're going to hold. So we're going to go 1, 2, and hold. We can press the lock button to pause it part way, and then we just press the unlock button again twice in order to resume the window down. Down they go, and it's that simple. Rolling them back up is equally as simple. So we're just going to press the lock button twice. On that second button press, we're going to hold. So we're going to go 1, 2, and hold. Up they go, and it really is that simple.
So that is a pretty cool process. I love the fact that this thing's got that as an option. We've got our option for wipers there. So courtesy wipe, with this setting turned on, when we've got a wiper cycle going, at the end of the cycle, it's going to go one more time to clear away any excess liquid that might be hitting the windshield. Rain sensing wipers, we can toggle those bad boys on or off. And then the rear wiper in reverse, really useful, because if we've got our front windshield wipers going and we put the vehicle into reverse, it's going to automatically turn on the rear wipers for us as well. So great safety setting. Power liftgate, we can disable or enable the switch on the outside of the vehicle. Different options for lighting as well. So we've got our auto high beam, which means that high beams are on. When the vehicle senses a potential collision, it's going to start dimming them as well, and then it'll turn them off completely for us. And then when the vehicle passes, it'll bring them right back on again. So it's an amazing setting. We've got our welcome lighting on the outside of the vehicle. So later on at night, it's going to welcome us to our Lincoln. Our adaptive headlamps, we can toggle this bad boy on or off as well. One of the benefits of those headlamps, go for that little info screen there, but it's that dynamic bending that I was telling you about. I just love the animation there. But it is nice because it's going to literally follow the road as you go to let you know what's ahead of you as you go. And then our auto lamp delay, when we go to lock the vehicle, does it stay on for 10 seconds, 20 seconds, or 120 seconds? And we've got some options for our locks. Auto unlock, so when we go to stop the vehicle, do the doors automatically unlock? And then when we go to shut the doors, so if we don't shut the door completely, we go to lock, it's going to let us know by giving us a little mislock chirp. And we've also got our exterior light feedback. Same idea, if we don't have our exterior lights turned off, it's going to let us know. Remote unlock, when we do that, do all doors become unlocked, or is it just the driver's door? So a matter of safety there. And then our intelligent access, so that we don't have to use the key fob, so unlocking using the fob. With our intelligent access enabled, we just wouldn't have to do that anymore. We can just walk up, slide our hand in behind the door handle, it's going to unlock for us. And that's the basics there. We've also got, our mirrors. So we do have power folding side view mirrors, so we can have it auto fold for us automatically when we go to press the lock button on the vehicle. And then, I already saw that one. Now we've got our door keypad code. So we've got our 5-digit factory number, but we do have the flexibility of setting up additional ones if we'd like to. We will have a factory number, 5-digit as I mentioned. You can set a number of these different options up. So if there's a 5-digit number you'll remember easier, you can set that up very simply. And then our backup start password. So if for whatever reason you don't have if your phone dies, because we do have the option to set up phone as a key, if for whatever reason your phone dies, we can set up a backup password instead, so the vehicle will start up, which is amazing. And back again. All right, we've got our Lincoln Way app. So vehicle is equipped with an onboard modem. We can use it as a wireless hotspot for up to 10 devices. One thing to point out, we do need a data-only plan through our cell phone provider in order to be able to use that system. But it is great that it is there. And then we've got some options for connectivity, so we can disable as necessary. Our hotspot, we can turn the spot off if we want to. We've got our basic settings there. We've got our data usage. We can manage different devices, or you can set up your account very simply there as well. So we go I probably shouldn't have pressed that right now, but okay, there we go. So we've got my account, so we need to activate it through the Lincoln Way app in order to be able to adjust that and set that up. And moving across. So we've already seen these general settings there. Moving down, we've got our mobile apps. So certain apps will only work via USB. We've got to be connected there. And moving back again, we've got our Wi-Fi. So always recommend make sure you're connected to a Wi-Fi network at home so that your vehicle can automatically download any available updates. So these two systems go hand in hand, Wi-Fi and auto updates. So just make sure you turn these things on because it's automatically going to update the vehicle firmware as available. 911 assist, if the vehicle senses that there's a potential collision, it's going to automatically dial 911 for us. We just saw automatic updates, and then we've got some options for voice control. So we go voice control, we've got an advanced mode. It just means we won't get as many notifications. So if we press the voice command prompt on the steering wheel, this is the command list, but with the advanced mode on, if we go to change radio stations, it's just going to change it. It won't let us know that it's changing it. We can turn that list off if we want to, and then phone confirmation. Do you want to call such and such person? Yes or no. We've got our Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. And one of the cool things, so if we remove the Galaxy that we were connected to earlier, it's dynamic. So it's going to delete that. Same idea on the iPhone side of things. So these things will disappear when you've essentially removed it. But when we go to hook the iPhone and the Android up again, those things will show up again, which is amazing. All right, so a few other things. So ambient light popped up now because of it. Well, we'll get to ambient light on the next screen. We've also got our display. So as big, as bright, as beautiful as this display is, if you find it to be a teeny bit too much, we can turn it off if we want to. So we got 3, 2, 1, and button press to bring it back to life again. Or we can go to a calming screen instead, which is just our date and time. And back in again, let's go to our settings, back into our display. We can change around the background if we want to. So very, very subtle, but well, except for this bright one, that is very different. But we've got a few different options for the look. Moving back, we've also got our brightness, so we can adjust the brightness of the screen. And we've also got our mode. So right now it's technically in the daytime mode because of how bright it is outside, but we can lock out the daytime or the nighttime mode just depending on our own personal preferences. So it's really up to you what happens there. Back again, 3, 2, 1. It should put us back into our daytime mode again. Boom, there we go. All right, and moving back, so we've got our display, and next up is our voice control. So we saw that one earlier, series of different options, and then we've also got our valet mode. So valet mode, what that's going to do is let us enter in a 4-digit number, and that's going to lock the screen out. So if you've got a valet driver, you want to lock the screen out so they can't look through addresses and previously done destinations. So you can see there, it's locked everything out for us. We enter that 4-digit number in again, and it's going to unlock the screen for us, which is amazing. And we've got our valet mode, which we just saw, and then our ambient light. So we've got a series of different options for ambient light colors, and that's going to be strategically placed through different parts of the vehicle. Moving back, we've got our advanced note options for our navigation, which we already saw. And then we do also have our massage seat settings. Oh, settings there, and we've got our seat option. So a few different options. If you don't have the 24-way massage seats, this won't be there. But because this one does have it, we've got the flexibility to adjust individual parts of the seat if we want to wrap our body a little bit more comfortably. So it is nice, we've got so many options there. And this thing also has massage chair seats for the driver passenger side. So we press the massage button there to turn them on. We've got a series of different options. You can kind of hear it going. So nice. So nice. Upper, lower rolling, and that's going to be for the driver's side when we've selected driver. But when we go passenger, same idea. We can adjust the passenger there, and we can turn the passenger massage chair seats on or off as necessary. So we can get to this setting by pressing that button there. There's also a button along the driver's seat that we can push in order to hot button press to get in and out of that one as necessary. And it's the same, there is that button along the passenger side as well. Next up, we've got personal profiles. So if you've got multiple people driving the vehicle, we can set up an individual profile, which is amazing because it's going to remember our audio settings, our phone settings, navigation settings, essentially more or less everything, which is amazing. So if you've got multiple people driving the vehicle, definitely recommend to set this thing up. We will only have the 3 memory buttons along the side there, but we still can save our base radio settings, presets, comfort settings, and things like that. So we've got quite a few options available in order to be able to set up personal profiles. Love this media screen. So simple. One of the cool things, somebody had mentioned it in a comment a while back, if the screen goes up and down, it doesn't. But I think that'd be kind of neat all at the same time. If you could like hide the screen away. Like I remember back when I was like 16, it was like the thing with different decks and things like that where it could kind of like the screen would go down and then kind of like hide itself. This doesn't have the option to do it, unfortunately, but it would be kind of neat. All right, and as we start to move down a little bit, so a series of different buttons available. We've got our little P button there, which is for our park assist, so we can have the vehicle help us out with parallel perpendicular parking if we want it. So we've got our parallel park, we've got our perpendicular park, and then our parallel park out. But let me show you how that system works. There's a little P button just right below our media screen there, so we press that and we just hit active park assist, and that gives us a few options. So we've got our parallel park, perpendicular park, and parallel park out. So what we're going to do is try the perpendicular park first. So all we're going to do is drive forward as necessary. Now it's going to default look on the right side. We can have it look on the left side as well, just depending on what spaces might be available. So space is found. All we have to do is switch the vehicle into neutral, and then we release the brakes, so we're not hanging on to anything right now. And all we do is press and hold that P button, and the car literally is doing everything for us. Now, when I do this, I usually always hover over the brake just in case, but at the same time, it is a smart system. Like if you wanted to, you could just kind of hang on. You can see that there's a little countdown timer going at the same time to let us know how long it's got before the next phase. So it's kind of shifting down as we go. It's going to pull us forward a tiny little bit. And you can see there's a little countdown timer letting us know how close or how far away it is from finishing up what's going on there. So it's pretty straightforward. It's a fairly smart system there. And back she goes. Pulling me forward. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Likes to have it perfect. I get it. Okay, car. Okay, car, you win. You win. It's literally, it's making sure it's absolutely perfect. This is amazing. It's like the car's got like mild OCD right now. It's so good. So good. I love it. And this should finish her up now. 3, 2, and we should be good. Perfect. But that's how we use the perpendicular park inside of this. And we've got some chimes and things like that going all over the place. So same thing, it's going to be looking along the right-hand side there. And as we come past this Jeep, it should recognize that as a spot. Oh, perfect. Brake. All right. And same idea. All we're going to do is shift into neutral. And we release the brake, hands off the steering wheel. We just press and hold that P button again, and watch this. Okay, so in this one, it is a more advanced system than what you'll find in, let's say, the Lincoln Nautilus. So you don't actually have to worry about gas or brake or anything like that. The car literally is doing, like my feet are both like up right now, but the car is doing everything for me. So it's literally pulled me back into the spot. It's moving me forward again. Should take a second. It's gonna pull me a little bit closer to this Jeep. And there we go. How close do you get me, fella? There we go, okay, perfect. But it's that simple. So we've got our chimes letting us know it's done, and it's that simple using the parallel park system. The last one is the parallel park out. So we go active park assist, and we want to go parallel park out on the left-hand side. So we could use the shifter to go left or right for all of the systems. So perpendicular, parallel park, and the parallel park out. So I want to look on the left-hand side, so I've released, and I want us to make sure that the vehicle's in neutral now. So let's shift into neutral, release the brake, press and hold the P button, and it's going to back the car up a little bit. And then it'll crank the steering wheel just so that I can get out of the spot. So it should take a second there. 3, 2, and look at this. Look at this, so good. And that's the parallel park out system. So it's fairly straightforward. And from there, all we're going to do, shift into drive, and we can move out of the spot from there. So really, really great setting there. I love how easy it is to use. And as you saw there, we can also do a navigate to parking, and we can turn our aid sensors off if we want to. Moving down from there, we also do have a driver assistance button, so we can push this button to get to this main screen, which gives us a few options. We can toggle that start-stop system on or off as necessary, turn our traction control on or off, or jump into some advanced driver assistance settings. Pushing this button brings us back to that driver assistance screen. We've got our 360 camera. So we've got our nice full 360 view there. We can push this hamburger icon to get to a front partial view, or a front 180-degree view. So really, really nice if you're getting out of the tight spaces or coming from an underground parking. You want to make sure there's no pedestrians coming from the left or the right-hand side there. But very straightforward to use. As we move down, we do have our piano keys, so our park, reverse, neutral, drive. We don't have a sport mode, but we do have different drive modes like the Excite, which would basically do what that sport mode would do. And as we start to move down a tiny little bit from there, volume rocker. Such an amazing song, amazing band, amazing sound all at the same time. So there are a series of different speaker setups and options and things like that inside of the Corsair, but this thing, as you heard, sounds really good. And that's not even up full weight, that was half volume. It's like car shaking right now. We can tune a few different ways. So we've got a tuning rocker down here. We can do a direct tune there, or we can just press the voice command prompt on the steering wheel to tune that way if we want to. We can turn the screen off if we want, so we can go for our base calming screen, or we can turn the whole screen off as well. We can change what source we're listening to, 4-way blinkers. We've got a series of different options for climate control. We've got a menu button there, which is going to give us the option of figuring out exactly what's going on. So you can see there with our air distribution. We've got this button that also has that air distribution setting, but it just doesn't have the dual zone button there. We are dual zone climate control inside of this thing though. So driver passenger side can be something different if we want. We can also have this. We press the menu button, can turn this thing off. We can also turn our heated steering wheel on or off as necessary, have the vehicle determine what the cabin temperature should be. And then because of the package we've got, we do also have heated and ventilated front seats for the driver and for the passenger side. At a very minimum, you're going to have heated front row seats. That ventilated option is when we've got the Elements package. So because this one's the Reserve 201A, we do have our ventilated seats that are going to be standard. All right, now as we start to move down from there, we do have a few other things. So we've got this little slider there. So this whole console is stuck in place. We could use this top part for a little bit of storage, but we do have this little slider, which we've got a few power points. So we've got a 12-volt power point there, and then we've also got 2 USB ports. So a USB, USB-C. If we ever need to hook up Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, we're going here, plugging in there in order to make it happen. So it's a very straightforward process to do. And then in order to close this, so we've got a little storage area here, but to close, all we do is push, slow release. So you're not going to pull, you're going to hear a crack, and you're eventually going to break that mechanism if you do it too many times. As we move down from there, you can just kind of make it out, but let me drop you down a bit. Let's get that cord out of the way. But we can see we've got our drive mode button there. So drive mode lets us figure out what drive mode we're in. So we've got our normal mode, we've also got our slippery and deep conditions, and then the other way we've also got our conserve or excite. Excite is essentially your sport mode, so it's going to give you the best possible performance out of the vehicle. Conserve if you're just going from A to B, versus the slippery or deep snow. If you're going through crazy amounts of snow, you want better traction stability control setup, we're going to use that as necessary. We do also have our electronic parking brake, so we're going to push down in order to turn the parking brake on. We're going to hit the brake and pull up in order to turn the parking brake off. Actually, where's it the other way? Oh yeah, 100% it's the other way, okay. So we're gonna pull up in order to turn the parking brake on. We're gonna push our brake, and then we're gonna push down in order to turn the parking brake off. We've got a little storage holder there, and then we've got 2 individual cup holders that do also feature ambient light. So you can see that ambient light turn on, and through the middle screen, we also have the flexibility to adjust the ambient light color. So if you're a bigger fan of, let's say, a blue or a yellow, you've got the flexibility to be able to adjust as necessary there, and we can adjust the brightness of it by dragging the slider up and down as necessary as well, which is amazing. But quite a few different options available. If we're in the auto settings, so you can see the ambient light turning off because it's too bright outside. So the vehicle's just not gonna waste our time by turning these things on unnecessarily. And we do also have our little console there, which has a removable tray, and there aren't any other power points down here, but we do have a wireless charging pad. So if your phone supports wireless charging, we've got the charge pad, which would be directly inside of this console. Now, one thing, I do wish that there were USB ports that would work through this screen so we could be wirelessly charging while we're connected through USB. Although I guess that would be kind of redundant, because if we're charging up anyways, this thing doesn't have wireless Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, we could still hook up over Bluetooth. So if we wanted to, we would be able to do things like listen to YouTube music, we can listen to Pandora, Spotify, our phone music, whatever the case may be, directly through this middle screen. And a lot of sources. So like I said, AM, FM is an option, SiriusXM is standard. We've got a 3-month subscription if you're purchasing a Lincoln vehicle for the first time, which is amazing. Overall, styling features is great. As we move up overhead, we do have an auto-dimming rearview mirror there. We've got basics for our vent controls, our light controls. Let's try that again. Basics for our light controls up there. And we do also have a panoramic roof. But I'll flip you around so you can actually see what's going on. But this thing is amazing. Opens things up so nicely. Single button press opens it up the first way. Second button press opens it up the last little bit. So we're opening up about this far, and that's as far as she'll open up. So it's not gonna go the full way, unfortunately, but we can still create a nice cross breeze if we need to. And we also have the flexibility to vent this thing out if we want to as well. We do have our sunglasses holder up overhead, so typical Lincoln styling. We've got a little business card holder, series of different options if we've got a garage door opener at home. We've got our vanity mirror as well, so visor vanity mirror that also has lights on both sides. And we can extend this bad boy out to block all of the sun, like literally blocks everything out along the side, which I absolutely love it when cars have that flexibility, because there's no likelihood of any sun peeking in and getting through the sides whatsoever. But this thing overall is amazing. Let's jump into the back row and see what's going on back there. Hopping into the second row of the Corsair, this is fairly nice. The seats have a good amount of cushion to them. They look amazing. And as I mentioned earlier, we do have a series of different color choices that are available for the interior. But this thing looks fairly nice, and it's realistically, this is built, I mentioned earlier, on the same platform as the Escape, but the two couldn't be further from one another. Like, it's really the basic bare bones of it, and that's really it. We've got a lot of different options that are great inside of the Corsair that I love. So we do have the flexibility of moving these seats forwards and backwards in the second row. So if we need to create more cargo space, we can easily do it. And one of the great things is that we've got a lever along the side that we can pull. The one that we would use in order to fold the seats down, we can actually extend it out the other way, and we can recline the seats a little bit. So we can kind of ride in style. But with the sunroof in this one, like I mentioned, so we do have the roof. This thing, I've got probably about 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches of headspace with the seat fully upright. When I recline back though,
It's closer to about, I'd say maybe 2.5, almost 3 inches. So if you've got some taller people, they'll probably be able to fit back here comfortably. Might need to recline the seats, and then they might need to stretch back a tiny little bit to make it happen, but it's not impossible. But overall styling is amazing. Like I said, the seats are great. I love the leather inside of this thing. We've got some cup holders here, so some basic functional item, which is always a nice thing. In behind the driver passenger seat, we've got some basic pockets there. And then because of the version of the vehicle we're in, we do have heated second row seats on the outboard seats. So no matter what, this middle seat is never going to be heated. We don't have the option for ventilated second row, unfortunately, as of yet. I'm like, hopefully Lincoln announces that sometime soon. Maybe not in the Corsair, but in the new Lincoln EV that's going to be announced in the next little bit. I think it's coming. I really do. But here nor there. Now, as we start to move down behind the armrest, we've got a few different power points. So along the left side, we've got 2 regular USB. Along the right side, we've got a regular USB as well as a USB-C. So lots of USB power all throughout the vehicle here, which is kind of a nice thing. But as I mentioned, styling inside of this vehicle is great. The same type of basic leather and then that white stitching highlight that we have inside of it, we're going to find in the second row. We've got the same type of feel to the doors. We've got this like interesting feel for the door itself. This like little highlight there is kind of unique, similar to what we saw in the first row. We've got an interesting cutout for the speakers, nice silver highlights. Up overhead, we do have our assist handle with a little hook. And then there also is a little cabin control light on top of that. No sort of controls for the temperature back here whatsoever. So we do have the flexibility of adjusting where it's going, but we can't actually control the temperature for the second row inside of the Corsair, unfortunately. And that's the same across the entire vehicle lineup. But the seats are comfortable, the headrests are comfortable. Inside of the second row, it's a 2-way adjust, so we don't have that 4-way like we do in the first row, but it still is nice to know that we can adjust this thing out as necessary to our own liking. But this thing is fairly comfortable. I definitely wouldn't mind being on a longer distance trip if I had to. Filling up fuel inside of the Corsair is also very straightforward. So just along our driver's side, it's a capless system. So just insert your fuel hose, fill up, and you're good to go. Now, when it comes down to the fuel quality, minimum manufacturer's recommendation across the entire Lincoln lineup is just your regular 87 gas, so 87 fuel. Do you need to use a higher premium fuel? Absolutely not. But here's the kicker. The horsepower and the torque specs that we were looking at are achieved using a premium fuel. So do you need to use one? Absolutely not. But if you want the best possible performance out of this thing, you're ideally going to want to use like an 89 or a 91, and you will notice a difference in the performance when you do. And especially if you're going to be looking at towing using the vehicle. So towing inside of the Corsair is possible. But having said that, when you're putting the vehicle under heavier loads, you want to make sure you're using a higher quality fuel instead. Taking a peek at the key fob for the Corsair. So it's unchanged from the 21 to the 22 model year. We've got our Lincoln badge along the back there. And along the front, we've got our unlock and our lock button, remote start, trunk release, as well as our horn or our panic alarm. And then along the bottom, we've also got our emergency access key. So if our key fob's ever died, we need to get into the vehicle, we're going to use this in order to be able to do it. Now we do have the flexibility of remote starting directly through the key fob, or we can use the Ford Pass app on either iPhone or Android devices. In order to remote start on the key fob, we press the lock button once and the circle button twice. As you can see there, the car is now remote started. In order to cancel the remote start, we just press that circle button there again once. As you can see there, remote start is now canceled. The back end of the Corsair is nice. It reminds me a lot of the other vehicles in the Lincoln lineup, like especially if you look at the Aviator, just kind of the way the top part of the trunk area kind of pops out. It looks fairly nice. Now we will have our rear wiper standard. Our backup camera is going to be there regardless, and we've got our nice Lincoln badge right along the very back end. We've got our LED tail lamps, and then this one also has got the reverse sensing system on top of that. Now, reverse sensors are going to be standard. The forward sensors inside of this thing will be optional. When it comes to the liftgate, we've got a few different ways we can get underneath, well, inside of the trunk, I should say. So if we look in Lincoln, so just underneath the last L in Lincoln, we go underneath and there is a little button there. So we can push that button in order to have the liftgate lift up. But here's the kicker. The Corsair also does have the option for a foot-activated powered liftgate. And I say an option because it is optional inside of this. It's not going to be standard across the vehicle lineup. But it is nice because all we have to do is just slide our foot underneath in order to get it into the trunk of the vehicle. All right, so cargo dimensions for the Corsair are going to be showing up. So we do have a nice amount of space back here, which is amazing. Now those back seats also have the flexibility to move forwards and backwards as well, which is great. So if you need to create a little bit of extra space for the trunk without folding those seats down, you've got the flexibility to do it. And all it is there's just a bar in between our legs where we would sit in the second row. And we can pull on that bar in order to fold the seats down. But look at how much more space that creates when we just have that seat all the way forward instead. But we do have the flexibility of easily folding the seats down, and we've got a few different ways that we can do it. So just along the side there, along the driver passenger side, we do have a little release. So if we wanted to, let me keep that door open, we can fold down this way if we want to, and that's very straightforward to do. But one of the great things about the Corsair is that along the right side, we also do have a few different buttons there. So we can push and hold, and it's a little release, so as you can see there, so just a power release. Now it is power down, but it is manual back up. So as nice as it is that we can fold it down from the trunk area if we need to, we do have to manually lift up back up regardless, but lots more space when we have that second row folded down. So I did mention that we do have the flexibility of folding the seats down using the left-right pad in the trunk area by itself. We also do have the option of using the lever just by the left-hand side or right-hand side of the seats, just depending on which version of the seat you're looking at, or side of the seat I should say you're looking at. But this is just the regular carpet liner that's going to be standard inside of the Corsair. We do have the option for a thermoplastic rubber tray instead, which is amazing. So if you've got your fur baby traveling with you, or if you're an outdoorsy type of person and you know things are gonna get messy, you've got that option where you can just spray it down if you need it. But this whole tray, fully removable. So we can just pull this whole thing out. We've got our mini spare tire that's optional inside of the Corsair. We've got some storage trays on the left and the right hand side, and then we've got our little spigot along the very top. So if we ever need to fill up using a jerry can, that's where we're going to make it happen first. Another thing to point out, along the left hand side, we do have a 12 volt power point back here, so we can power some things up if we need to. And then we do also have the option for a cargo cover. So we can just kind of make out the hook. So we've got one left side, right side, and then we can pull it down in order to be able to block off anything that potentially might be underneath. So if you've got privacy concerns for things you might have back here, we've got the flexibility to close it off if we need to. Now, we do also have the flexibility of setting the trunk height for the Corsair if we need to. So if you've got a garage that's a little bit lower, all you have to do in any version of the Corsair is just pull the trunk down once it's up, the liftgate down, and once you've got it at that ideal height, all we're gonna do is take this button, and we're gonna press and hold, and there's a little chime that happens. So what's going to happen now is every time this opens and closes, it's not gonna go higher than that point. And then if you ever need to reset, you just lift it up as high as it'll go. Same idea, you're just gonna press and hold. We've got our little chime there, and it's now locked into place along the very top, and it's that simple to be able to adjust this thing as necessary. The Corsair has a few different options available. So we've got the 2-liter turbo, we've got the 2.3-liter turbo, there's the 2.5-liter Atkinson hybrid as well. So 3 different choices that are available, just depending on what you need out of a vehicle. I'm not gonna lie, with gas prices the way they are right now, it's actually not that bad today, like $1.63 a liter, not a gallon, per liter right now, but it was up to like $1.94, which is crazy. Like I'm just in the GTA, but I think it was out on the West Coast, like Vancouver. I think you guys were hit with like a $2.20 a liter, which is like almost like $8-9 per gallon. Like it's so ridiculous. Well, that's where hybrids come into play. Like electric vehicles, I think, are going to be a bigger thing over the course of the next couple of years, especially with gas prices going the way they are. Oh, that's nice. So this is the 2-liter EcoBoost engine, so the turbocharged engine that you're going to find in a lot of other Lincoln and Ford vehicles. But this thing is crazy powerful, like 250 horsepower, 280 pound-feet of torque. Like it is a good amount of power in this 2-liter engine, 2-liter turbo engine. You've got the option for the larger 2.3-liter instead. So if you're a little bit more of a speed demon, or you're just a bigger fan of having more power in your cars, you're probably going to want to look at that 2.3-liter instead. And then on the flip side of it, if you want to be a little bit more economical, look at the Lincoln Corsair Grand Touring model, and that's where we get into the hybrid instead. So the hybrid, 2.5-liter Atkinson, great amount of power, and it's got, I believe, 28-mile range. I'm going too slow. 28 miles, that's why that system canceled. But it's got a 28-mile range inside of the hybrid version of the Corsair. So a decent amount, it's actually fairly similar to the Escape.
which is kind of ironic because the Corsair and the Escape are actually built on the same platform. We do have an option for a heads-up display, which this one does not have, but it is available there. And there are some other great options that you can look at too. I mentioned we do have the wireless charge pad inside of this one. And again, that's just because one of the added packages that this vehicle has. Not going to be standard, but it is there as an option. It is interesting though, even seeing different packages and different options and things like that that are available, and how the chip shortage has kind of affected everything. Minor things, but there aren't too many things I've noticed so far in the Corsair that are like profoundly different from the 2020 Corsair or the 2019 MKC. All right, excite mode, make me excited. I'm gonna slow down a tiny, well, not slow down, I'm gonna take my foot off the gas. And okay, I'm gonna gas it up a little bit. It's so good, so good. And if you heard there, so I was changing gears out on the fly as well. So you've got the flexibility to be able to do that just because of the paddle shifters inside of this thing. So I absolutely love it. I love that we've got that option. As of right now, I do also have the lane centering system turned on and the lane keeping systems on there as well. But I guess lane centering system, it shouldn't matter. I'm actually curious what's about to happen here because I'm passing a road where I think it might lose the, what's it gonna do? Okay, it kept it. I'm super, okay, cool. I wasn't sure if it was gonna try to take me to the on-ramp or if it was gonna keep me there. It felt like it was almost fighting me for a brief second, but it's keeping me perfectly balanced in my lane. My hands are technically off the wheel right now, but having said that, it's not permanently off because I will eventually get a message letting me know I should put my hands back on the wheel. But it is such an amazing system all at the same time. I love this system. And something like this, so I don't have any kids. I've got a fur baby now. My girlfriend and I adopted a dog, so cutie is a little cavapoo. But so I don't have any kids, so I wouldn't have to worry about something bigger. But I mean, for me, I've got fairly wide shoulders. I'm 175 pounds, 6 feet tall. I can comfortably fit inside this thing, and looking around headspace, I still have a ton of space up there. The seat can still drop down a little bit, so a lot of great options available. One thing I forgot to do while I was there, turn on massage chair seats. So we've got a hot button press along our driver's door where we can turn that on, but the massage chair seats are amazing. It's optional inside of the Corsair, but it is so nice all at the same time. All right, and let's finish this bad boy up in a few seconds. I'm just gonna pull across here so that we can kind of hide things out a little bit from that bright sun hitting this camera. There we go. Oh, that massage chair seat. So nice, so nice. That was a look at the 2022 Lincoln Corsair, looking at everything that you need to know about it, test driving, etc. What did you think? If you have any questions, drop down in the comment section below and let me know. I'm more than willing to bounce ideas off of you. If you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed this video though, let's try that. Feel free to give it a like, subscribe to the channel as well, and until I see you next time, take care. We've got a little storage cubby along the door as well but let's kind of go through. I'll let you figure out exactly